A new era of the monkey god is upon us. Some consider the rework great, but some don't like it. Others just don't care. But, let me change all of that. I will try to unite all Tenno's opinion, and I hope that at the end of this video, you will all agree that WUKONG 2.0 is the best thing that ever happened to our resident Monkey King. I know we have different opinions about this rework, but let me clarify a few things. I think most players misunderstood the rework. Digital Extremes did say that they want WUKONG to be more active in terms of gameplay, and they did it well by changing and adjusting his overall kit. I know that some of you don't like what they did to WUKONG's Defy ability, as they stripped the long immortality and replaced it with short invincibility, followed by crowd control and then bonus armor. The worst part is, the armor bonus is capped at 1500, and for sure, some are facepalming right after they see how low the bonus armor compared to some abilities like Rhino's Iron Skin. Well, that's not really the problem. You see, we are so focusing on just one ability, and we are not seeing the overall kit of WUKONG right now. Honestly, this monkey god turned from a survivalist to an attacker after the rework. WUKONG has one of the most insane DPS right now after the rework. But squad leader, I want my endurance master WUKONG bad. Well, don't worry, as with the right setup, you can have tons of dumb fun with WUKONG, even against endgame enemies. To fully understand his new kit, let me share my experience using his new abilities. So his first ability is called Celestial Twin. Basically, it's a clone, and works like Equinox's duality augment. The only difference is, it's not as dumb as Equinox's clone, and honestly, WUKONG's twin hits harder, and survives longer. Now there are some tricks to maximize the potential of this ability. One is by equipping a gun that has area of effect damage. Take for example Secura Penta with the napalm grenades. This weapon wielded by your twin is an absolute beast. It can clear enemies in a couple of seconds, and best part is, the projectile doesn't inflict any self-damage or harm to you at all. Another tip is not equipping any melee weapon. When you don't have melee weapon in your arsenal, your twin will use your primary weapon. Same goes if you are equipping both primary and secondary, it will still use your primary weapon. That way, you can massacre everything with your 2 grenade launchers. Honestly, you really don't need melee weapons right now for WUKONG, as his Iron Staff is all you need. In fact, if 2 WUKONGs are holding an Iron Staff, then it can wipe out a room full of enemies in a couple of seconds. This is where WUKONG's insane DPS is coming from right now, and we will discuss it later. For now, let's proceed to his second ability, Cloud Walker. Cloud Walker is the same ability, but it has received some awesome quality of life changes. The stagger and the stealth kill are still there. But now, the ability is so much faster, and you can actually do spy mission with this ability right now, as it will not trigger laser traps or doors. The problem is, the duration has been lowered to the point that you can only achieve 6 seconds duration even with all duration mods equipped on your build. But honestly, it's not really a problem, because the ability is fast enough to get you from one point to another in just a blink of an eye. Yes, it's good in terms of positioning, and also, it's great for healing yourself, your twin, and pets, as it has this ability to heal, and the amount healed depends on the distance that WUKONG traveled. And lastly, this ability does render your celestial twin invulnerable. Now let's talk about Defy. Like I said earlier, there's no press 3 to win Defy anymore. Instead, you need to cast this ability at the right time, and at the right place. It's more like Rhino's Iron Skin mechanics. You are invulnerable for a couple of seconds, soaking up all the damage you've received, but instead of converting all those damage to armor, it will be multiplied and converted to damage on your swing attack, which does not only deals damage by the way, but also knock down enemies that are within radius. Also, this ability does give you 1500 bonus armor at max, and some believe that this armor must scale with power strength, to give more survivability to WUKONG. But honestly, I think it's quite sufficient, as remember, there are a couple of things that you can add on WUKONG to make him last longer at endgame levels, not just mods, but also setups that will make you unkillable with his new kit. In fact, while I was doing a solo survival arbitration, I did not even proc my passive even if enemy levels are beyond 100. Hell, I did not even use my Cloud Walker in this run to take advantage of its invulnerability and heal. Although the changes on his fourth ability are not as loud as the rest of his kit, the tweaks are pretty solid, to say the least. The increased status chance, range and addition of slash damage makes this exalted one of the best, if not the best exalted weapon right now. In fact, If you are impressed with that 1 million damage setup I have showcased before Wukong received his rework, then you will definitely drop your jaws once you see how insane the damage it can deal right now with my current setup. But if there's one thing that I don't like about these changes, that is his passive ability. It's not bad, it's just, I want more from it. More specifically, I would love to have the option to use it again. The buffs are pretty solid, but the problem is, we are only allowed to use it once in every mission. It would be good to have a mechanic wherein the buffs have a very long cooldown, or give us the option to reuse it again. Well, this is just my personal opinion, and I know that doing something like that would result in exploits, and I know Digital Extremes are avoiding that to happen. Anyway, my setup doesn't rely on Wukong's new passive, so it's not really a problem. Okay, now that we are done discussing each of his new abilities, let's talk about builds. There are actually 3 build variations I will share in this video. The first one is what I call Celestial Shadow. At first, I was planning to make a build out of his Celestial Twin and Cloudwalker abilities. The idea is, Wukong's Celestial Twin will do all the work, with either a gun or his Iron Staff, while the original Wukong will spam Cloudwalker to make the clone invulnerable. The problem is, Cloudwalker's duration is really low even if you pump it up with lots of duration mods. So instead of that, what I did is give Wukong tons of duration, then efficiency, and some power strength. The Umbral mods are just personal preference, and you can replace it with any other mods that you think are useful for your playstyle. I just have the Umbral mods so I have lots of health while increasing the power strength for my primal rage. With this build, your clone will not just be good in wielding guns, but also be efficient enough to use your Iron Staff. The last piece for this setup will be the Uneru Focus, and make sure you have the Void Shadow. This ability will make our Celestial clone invisible. This setup is more towards those people who like to play stealthy. With the build setup I've shown earlier, you can switch from using guns or your Iron Staff easily, and no matter how you choose to deal with your enemies, they will die without a clue who killed them. The second build I will show you is focused on crowd control. I call it Twin Stomper, because it will basically let your twin crowd control a room full of enemies with the help of his new Celestial Stomp Augment. The build is pretty simple. Equip the Celestial Stomp Augment, and then give your Wukong maximum efficiency and range. Don't worry about the very low duration, since Celestial Stomp is not affected by any duration mods. It works like the Exodio epidemic, wherein enemies get suspended in the air for a few seconds. The good thing is, the range is pretty wide that it can stun lock a room full of enemies, and the best part is, it works through walls, making it one of the best crowd control setup right now. The last but certainly not the least build variation is focused on an endgame setup. I call it Double Trouble, as it will basically allow you and your twin to wreak havoc in the field. The key here is to give your Wukong lots of effective health and damage mitigation. That 1500 bonus armor from your Defy ability will be sufficient against endgame enemies if you have all the Umbral mods, Adaptation, plus Arcane Guardian, as these will definitely give you lots of armor to mitigate damage. You can also add Max Arcane Grace if you have it, but that's the problem of this setup. It's really costly to make Wukong endgame viable, especially if you will just be relying on his damage mitigation. However, if you don't have these things yet, you can just always rely on his Cloudwalker ability, which gives you healing, invulnerability and positioning. Now don't worry about Primal Rage having just 24% bonus critical, as even without any red crits, Wukong's Iron Staff can own endgame enemies with ease right now. The thing is, you can mod your Iron Staff with a hybrid critical condition overload setup right now, since this exalted staff can buff its status chance by a lot, and since you can equip it with 3 damage right now, slash, impact, and then an element of your choice, it's pretty obvious that condition overload is a good mod choice for this weapon. By the way, drifting contact is just a personal preference, as in my honest opinion, your combo counter isn't really needed, as Iron Staff's range don't scale with your combo anymore. Instead of drifting contact, you can actually replace it with healing return. This mod is pretty effective right now because of Iron Staff being a good status weapon, plus the range helps in hitting a bunch of enemies and restoring your health in the process. If these mods are not enough, then you can add a gun like the Zakti that can proc a lot of status on an enemy. Also, you can further increase the critical chance of your Iron Staff by equipping the Gladiator mods on your Sentinel weapon. The bad news is, we can't achieve the max critical chance per combo multiplier right now, as it looks like that trick wherein we can stack Gladiator mods on both Sentinel weapons and our melee weapon has been shadow nerf. But still, The orange crits after 2 times combo multiplier can easily melt even those high-level enemies. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you that all mods you equipped on your Iron Staff will have the same effect on your clone's Iron Staff. So if you choose to equip Healing Return, this will make your clone a bit tanky because he can actually heal himself. So that's all of it for now. Take note that the builds you've seen are just my initial setup for WUKONG 2.0. I'm probably sure that I will come up with some new builds and synergies in the future, just by seeing how versatile the kit of this Monkey King right now. I do hope that you enjoyed the video and go try out the builds I've shown you afterward. But before you do that, please do give this video a like if you find it informative, and also, please subscribe if you are new to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.